What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us today for the 1004 show. We're here with Josh Schachnow of Mirkwood Marketing I was going to say California, in Canada. What's going on, Josh?
Not too much. How are you, Zach?
I've been practicing how to say your last name, and the country is the thing that I messed up.
Well, you were on point. I wish I was in such a warm state, but it's a little chillier up here in Canada. But such is life, right?
Absolutely. So you've been in the business world not too long. You are doing a couple of ventures. You're doing Mirkwood Marketing, which is a digital marketing company that focuses on a lot of things, specifically copywriting, if you will. And then you also took over a tutoring firm that was several years old. Tell me a little bit about the backstory of who Josh is.
So I grew up on a pretty clear path. I really like business, and from the get-go, I always wanted to be a lawyer. And so, slight tangent just to explain that, but throughout high school, and I did my undergraduate degree in business. It was business focused, but the plan was always to become a lawyer. So I went to high school, went to undergrad, took the business courses, loved it. Always had a passion for business. Right out of undergraduate school, I went to law school. I spent I guess the last year after I graduated law school working in law, and kind of realized pretty early on that maybe it wasn't what I wanted to do long term. Maybe it wasn't something that I was extremely passionate about.
How did you
And
recognize that, though? So I'm someone who changed my major in college probably 7 times, right? And so,
yeah,
like, what made you believe that law was what you wanted to do? And then how did you kind of understand that, hey, maybe it's not what I wanted to do?
that's a great question. Part of it is I guess the idea that we all have of certain things growing up. So, society and the media kind of conveys certain professions in certain ways. But I think what it came down to for me in law was I like business, and so lawyers deal with businesses in certain types of law. Lawyers do a lot of, it's a lot of, thinking, analyzing, negotiating, which was big for me, kind of analytics. I thought it would be a really cool way to kind of put my mind to work because I knew I couldn't do a job where I wasn't mentally stimulated on a constant basis. So that was really big. And growing up in the community that I did, now none of my family members are lawyers, but we had a lot of family friends that were in the industry and the profession. I saw the successes they were having, and part of it I couldn't even explain to you. It just from my young, like even before high school, when I didn't even know what being a lawyer fully meant, I didn't fully appreciate it, and you really don't until you get into law school and actually practice. But I just always kind of knew, I wish I had a better answer than that, but I knew I liked a lot of aspects, and it was more of a gut feeling
I,
than anything.
I have a journalism degree, and while I do some things in the media world, when I actually got into the journalism field, I absolutely hated it. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I, I didn't have an internship in school, so maybe that would have changed my thought process. But like, it's a lot different than you think, and you're finding people on the worst day of their lives, and
hmm
basically saying how are you feeling, and I mean it's obvious how they're feeling. It's the worst day of their life, and it's
yeah,
I don't know. It's just I feel like we have similar paths in that way, where it's like, hey, you went to school, you invested so much time on something, and then now we're doing something completely different, and it's like we learn from those experience, but in a way, a lot of that was wasted time and money, and so it's interesting that okay, so you take a career in law for how long?
So I was practicing at a firm for about 10 months. Now in the summer between two of my years in law school, I also spent working at the firm. So that would have been about 3 months plus the 10 months after I graduated. So I guess a total of around 13 months. And like you said, I spent a lot of it doing personal injury litigation. And so when you say worst days, this is literally people who were hospitalized, people who had been in accidents, car accidents, just tough times, to put it lightly, tough times. So
Yeah, it's not fun.
I think a part of the reason why I at the very least wanted to take a break from law was because I love business. We're going to get into more of that soon. Um, and I wasn't doing much corporate commercial law, so that could still be in the cards down the line. But at the time, so in the last year, I just kind of answering another question, which was, how did you realize that it wasn't for you? After a few months, you could just sort of tell. I consider myself a pretty hardworking person, and when I'm motivated and passionate about something, I'll burn the midnight oil. I'll go as hard as I can. Cliche, cliche, cliche.
And how old are you? So you're a
but I
millennial
wasn't
too.
feeling that.
You're a millennial that quits your job over and over again to change the world. Yeah, no.
I mean, a lot of outsiders, yeah, absolutely could look in and think that, but at the end of the day, when I went to bed or when I woke up in the morning and was on my walk to work, I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel the passion. I didn't feel the excitement. So that's how I kind of knew.
So then I believe the timeline is you went and you helped put yourself into the tutoring business at that point, where you became a partner in that business. How did that come about?
Right. So a few months into that 10-month span of legal practice, I could tell I wasn't motivated. I needed something else to do. And like I said, I always loved business. And a very good friend of mine had bought a pretty successful tutoring company within the city a year or two before. He operated it for a school year. And then the year after that, kind of let it fall to the wayside because he was working full time as well. So he couldn't really manage both. He kind of let it go. And what he needed was another person to kind of help get it back up and going. And so I approached him because I figured this was a business opportunity which I was looking for to kind of scratch that itch. And it was a simple enough business model that I could do it part time. We could do it together, and yet it could still bring in some decent money. I figured it's a great place to start. So I approached him. I said, "Are you interested in getting it back up and running?" He said, "Absolutely." I said, "I don't really have much money now. Are you interested in some type of agreement where I could pay my way in with future profits so I didn't have to take money out of my own pocket?" He said, "Absolutely." And so long story short, we got into, we made an agreement together. And in November, we started kind of revamping it. So, rehiring some tutors, hiring some new tutors, getting the marketing efforts back up. And that's kind of how that started.
So it was at zero, basically. It had a brand at some point. It had some sort of tutors in it. So it was at zero when you took it. And then, is that correct? It was at zero?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had, it was still ranking extremely high on Google. There was a decent website, but it was a little outdated. It had some good brand, recognition, because it did do well for 2-3 years. So there was definitely something to work off of.
Got it.
But in terms of kind of the ball wasn't moving at all. It hadn't run for a year. So there had been no communication with tutors, no sales for a year, nothing like that.
And so within 6 to 9 months, you guys were making $1,000 to $2,000 per month, which is not bad to ramp back up.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing is when you pick a very simple service like that, and this is kind of going maybe a few steps further, but into a recommendation I would have for people kind of just starting out, pick something simple that there's demand for. So in my city specifically, there's 2 universities and there's a college. So there's at each university, there's tens of thousands of students. So there's a market. The company had been successful. There's other tutoring companies in the city that are successful. So the demand is there. It's very our business model is as simple as we make all the sales. We handle all the monetary transactions because
Right.
A lot of personal tutors don't like having to set prices, negotiate, deal with cash. So we handle all the money. And then we pair up the student with the tutor. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple business model. And so we were, after a month, we were making sales. We weren't making huge profits, but I think we made a profit even in the second or third month. Now, not huge profits, by no means nothing to live off of, but we were doing pretty decent sales numbers for that, and we started in the middle of the school year.
Right.
So what we're really hoping to do is in September, when the school year starts again here, is that's where we're going to look into ramping up a little bit.
Look, let's break down that a little bit more. So you said pick something simple with the demand. So I believe most people are trying to create sexy businesses, and because it's popular and it's cool, and honestly, like if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I would much rather do something that solves a real problem, that isn't necessarily sexy, and can help people. So how do you understand if something is simple enough?
Yeah, I think you should start with the demand. I mean, if this is just business 101, you know, if there's no demand, there's no point in starting your company.
So then how do you define demand in that case? So just because there's a school with a lot of people, like how are you able to know that there's people there that are looking for this kind of service, I guess?
Right. So you want to look at the demographics. You want to understand your ideal customer. So for us, we focus on university students, because what that allows us to do is all of our tutoring happens on the campuses. And generally what we focus on is first and second year introductory courses, because it's easy to find tutors for them, and you know there's tons of students taking it. So what the thinking was is we know there's tens of thousands of students in the city every year at the universities, and a majority of them have to take introductory courses. They're mandatory, right? If you're in business, for example, you have to take intro to math, intro to accounting, intro to finance, et cetera, et cetera. If you're taking a science degree, you need a biology, whatever it is, et cetera, et cetera. But what you see over time, if you look at our sales sheet, and we went through the sales that we'd recorded even before we owned the company, is that it's these intro courses that people constantly need help with, generally because there's more people taking them. If you try to focus on third and fourth year, Chem 3 in Astrophysics 4, like God knows how many people are taking them, and the people that get there are generally smart enough. They don't really need tutors if you get to that point. People need help with the introductory courses. So that was the understanding, is our demographic, we want to look at undergraduate students, because there's a lot of them. It's easier to deal with them than to deal with high school parents, which is a whole other conversation we could get into.
Oh, I was a swim coach for 9 years.
So you know all about that.
So I said, there's 150 kids on the team, but there's 300 parents.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other ball game. So target a demographic where there's demand, and do research. You got to do research. You can't just say, like you said, okay, there's this many students and they're in school, therefore they need help. Take a look online. What are some other companies? How long have they been around? What type of sales numbers are they doing? I was very lucky because this specific company had been around for, I think, about 4 or 5 years. So I just went back through the data, right, and I was looking at the sales numbers and seeing, like, man, if we can get this back up, if we can build the brand back up, we can be doing this many $1,000s in sales every month. So, find a similar type business, I guess, would be a great place to start. Try and get some numbers. And then you asked about kind of simplicity. I mean, that really comes down to a little bit more research. So if it's an existing company, probe it. Like the first conversation I had with him was, how does it work? Like, take me from step A to step Z. So, okay, you put up your flyers to market. What happens? A customer calls you. What do you do? Not just, I take down, like, every step of the way. Okay, you answer them questions. Okay, they want to make a sale. Where? Do they make it online? How do they do it? Then what? How do you contact the tutor? What goes into it? And that really it comes down to logic. You can kind of piece together in your head, okay, well, how much time is this stuff going to take? What type of mental fortitude or thinking is this going to take? And it was pretty clear to me that the process was fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of marketing, hiring great tutors, and then marketing well, and then handling those sales, so having a good website that can handle those transactions, and then pairing them together. And so a great suggestion, and I read this on Reddit all the time, if you don't follow Reddit, it's a great source of information and learning. And you'll see in a lot of this, I think it's r/small business, a lot of the topics and conversations about these simple starter businesses, they recommend like window cleaning, grass cutting, house cleaning. Like these are all very basic services. You could start tomorrow. You could put up an ad tomorrow or go door to door tomorrow, buy the basics, buy a lawnmower, buy the window cleaning supplies, and start tomorrow. And then it's just a matter of doing it well and then scaling.
That's my first business is called A Guy in a Rake. I was 10 years old and I mowed lawns, right? And I like to tell this story because it's literally okay, that person's, you live in a neighborhood, right? You own a lawnmower. Maybe you don't own a lawnmower. They're a couple $100, $100, whatever. And you see someone's lawn that needs to be mowed. Okay, so there's your target customer.
There's your demand,
right?
There's your demand.
There it is. And then you have to. Do you have basically the balls to go knock on that door and say, "Hey, it looks like you need your lawn mowed. Can I do it?" And at the time, I was doing it for like $10, right? And so I did that for 3, 4, 5 years. I don't remember how long I did it, but I learned in that situation that it's literally like just go figure out who needs it, and then see if the pain point is big enough for them to actually pay you. And so I think people all too often are trying to do all these very difficult businesses when it's something as stupid simple as mowing a lawn. And I love this subreddit. This is where I met you, and it's you see all these people after like 2 weeks like, oh, my business isn't doing well, and I'm like, well, what are you doing to actually get in front of those people? There was something I saw the other day where someone was like, oh, I'm 2 weeks into my business and I don't know, I'm thinking about throwing in the towel. I'm like, dude, you're 2 weeks into this, like this is a long journey.
2 weeks is nothing. 2 weeks is nothing.
I love that you're talking about the process, the playbook, really figuring out steps A to Z and every, piece in between. This is business number one. There's another business that we'll talk about in a second, but are you happy with business number one? So you get out of law to then be in a place where you want to be happy that you're doing something good that makes your mind feel good. Do you feel that this is different than it was when you were working for the law firm?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was actually doing both at once. So, like I said, we started in November, and I was still working in the law firm until June. So, throughout that school year, especially that second semester, so January to April, I was doing both. And it's great because, like you said a few minutes ago, find something that creates value or gives. That's the ultimate goal. If you're helping other people, if you're really creating value for them, things are going to start moving eventually. And here, like, you're helping students. These are students who are taking a degree that their career might depend upon, and they need help. So providing them with a great tutor to help them improve, that's a good feeling to begin with.
Yeah. And
then eventually things started picking up. We would get referrals, or we would get customers paying. We sell in. You can either buy 1 hour or you can buy packages. So to save some money, you could buy a 5-hour package, 10, 20-hour package, and people would continue buying because they liked their tutor and their tutor was helping them. So that's a great feeling to begin with. If you're doing that, that's a good start. If you're helping people, that's a great start. And so that felt great. And then the money started to come in a little bit. Like I said, we're by no means making tons of money right now, but we definitely see the potential to get back to what the company used to be. And because of kind of being able to hopefully scale and automate, which, could be another topic of conversation, or maybe we'll get to in a little bit, go even higher. So it's a great feeling, and even just these basic businesses, whether you stick with it forever, whether you stick with them like you did for a few years, the learning is so key. Like, you start to learn about marketing, and if you don't wake up and do it, it's not like at a company where there's other people, or you could maybe you're in management and you can pass it on. If you or your partner or if you don't do it, it's not getting done. So it's a very different dynamic in that sense. You realize the work even for a simple business. If you're working at a company and you're thinking of starting your own gig or on the side, whatever, the one thing you'll learn pretty quickly, or the one thing you should consider maybe before even starting it, is even for a simple business, you have to put in the work, because if you don't, nobody else will. And I've heard this a million times from a million other people, and it's so true. When you're starting your own business, you got to put in the work. So
100,000,000,000% agree
yeah,
with that.
yeah,
I think what's interesting too is that you said something like, we solve problems. And while that business isn't making a significant, or as my buddy Nate Scholl says, funny money,
hmm
it's a start. And all
right,
too often people read something in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., watch Shark Tank, something that basically says, oh, we're valued at 7, 8, 9 figures. And that's a unicorn. That's an outlier. Most businesses are
hmm
not. Only 4% of businesses actually make $1 million or more, right? And I love, which is crazy to think if you think about it,
yeah, absolutely,
but I love that you're okay, that you understand that we're going to be able to grow from that number. And all too often people are like, oh, I just need to make all this money overnight and it's going to be great. I'm like, no, like play a long-term game. Make sure that you're making money through those short terms,
yeah.
but grow that. And I love that you're okay with that. So how do you then scale and automate this business so that can you make it so that you don't have to wake up in the morning and do it? Are there things that you're learning with the business that happens, or is that something that you're years down the line from?
Yeah, so that's another reason why we were completely fine with. I mean, we turned a profit in the last in those 8 months during the school year that we were operating it, but in order to keep scaling it and in order to make everything more efficient, it was a great learning process. Our goal for that school year was to get it back up and running, just so we could break even, and to get an understanding of how to operate it together so that we can improve it. So this September, it's going to be operating at twice its efficiency. I want to just quickly make a comment on, you were saying, how you don't have to make millions, etc. This is a business that takes maybe 5 to 10 hours of my time a week. If I can make an extra 1,000 or 2 to put in my pocket per month from that business, that's great, because then I can spend other time doing other things. This business does not have to make me $1 million in my life. If it makes me $1,000 a month or more, the goal is a few more, and it's not taking up all my time, it's really about lifestyle design. I'd rather make a couple thousand a month from a couple different businesses that I run on my own time, and then can do whatever I want. I golfed yesterday morning on a Wednesday, because I'm managing a couple companies that I can do on my own time and still support myself. So instead of one company to make you $1 million, you don't need that. You could have a couple little going on. They each make you a couple thousand, or maybe one day 10,000 a month, and go from there. So it's a bit of a sidetrack, but I think that's important to note, because a lot of people think I need to open this one business that makes me all this money. You can also break it up into chunks and have a couple little 5 to 10 hour gigs a week.
I think
So
I can't remember where I saw the stat, but something like it's 7 streams of income. Most millionaires have 7 streams
yeah,
of income, something like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
I've heard that as well.
most people don't even know to the day how much you have to make if you want to make $1 million a year. I think it's like 28.33 or something like that, 26.33, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't even do that simple math to be like, oh, well, how much do I even have to make? You break that into 5 or 7 businesses. Well, okay, I need to make $500 a day per business. It's a lot more doable. So you are also doing a marketing company that focuses, or one of your verticals is copywriting. What's the backstory on that? And I mean, do you like to write?
Yeah, so I like to write. I wouldn't call myself an overly passionate writer. Like, I didn't take journalism. I don't like long essays, but I like business writing. So for the second half of those 10 months I was working in law, I was thinking, what am I going to do when I'm done? If I have nothing to do, I wanted to take about a month off and kind of take a break because it's not easy working in a law firm. It's demanding. It's a high stress environment, et cetera, et cetera. But I said to myself, what can I do? Maybe even just over the summer, something freelance for myself, maybe make a few bucks, and just figure out my next step. And what really stuck out at me was copywriting, because I do have the writing skills from business and law school. We write formal papers. I was writing court documents. I was writing memos for lawyers. Grammar, all that stuff I got that covered. And I love business. So mix the two and you get copywriting or business writing. So I basically spent the last 2-3 months while I was at the law firm, any spare time I had, I was reading books or blogs or listening to podcasts on copywriting. And my plan was to take a couple weeks off and then start my own freelance copywriting business to see if I could, dedicate a few months to it. If it took off, great. If not, I'd see what my next move is, maybe apply to a real job, because I also had the tutoring company that I could do while working a full-time job. So I'm at a barbecue probably just a week or two after I finished my law job. I was going to take a couple weeks off, maybe travel and then get started. I'm talking with a good friend of mine who's home for the summer from law school, and he didn't have a job lined up for the summer. So we get to talking, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? I tell him my idea, and he was a political science major who loved writing. And he said, man, I've been trying to find a way to monetize writing that's my passion. His passion is writing. And so he heard my idea and he said, I want to know more. The next day I sent him an email with a whole list of all the blogs that I followed and specific posts that would kind of catch him up as quick as possible. And the next week we sat down, we grabbed a beer, we finalized an agreement that we would go into business together. So that was about 2-ish months ago. And we've been in business ever since.
What beer were you drinking at that point?
Oh, what? I remember exactly where I was sitting. I think it was a Rickard's Red.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've learned a lot in this and from. In the last 2-3 months, you learned that the first thing that you guys were doing was you were pitching copywriting, but then you recognized that, maybe we should go on this more generally, and then kind of upsell, maybe you guys need copywriting as the vertical or the kind of system to do that. How does that whole process of you understanding that, let's not go super niche, let's broaden it up, and then maybe go back to super niche is the thing that we actually sell them once we have them in the door?
Yeah, so what ended up happening was we were targeting small to medium-sized businesses because we are in more of a government town, and there are a lot of small to medium-sized businesses that didn't necessarily need just specifically copywriting, but their websites were bad. They didn't even know how to run Facebook ads or Google pay-per-click. They didn't really know what they were. So what we started doing was, we'd have a back and forth, get on the phone with them, and kind of do a little bit of consulting and offer them kind of social media marketing opportunities. Mm-hmm. And within those inherently is copywriting, because if you need an ad written, that's copy. If you want an ad to go to a landing page, that's copy. If you have a huge email list subscriber that you're not even using, which a lot of people we found is these businesses with thousands of people on an email, like on a MailChimp subscriber list that they weren't even sending emails to. So to write an email to them, that's copy. So it was hard for these companies to realize that, hey, we need copywriting. What in their heads, they needed more sales. That's the root of the problem. They need more sales. So you got to go directly to the problem. So we would say, hey, we offer these marketing services that will help improve your sales. Here's how we suggest doing them, and here's how we can help implement them. And inherently copywriting's in there. So you want to find a niche as soon as possible to kind of narrow down and, but to get started and to kind of build our portfolio and just to kind of build some credibility, we found that we needed to kind of alter our offering And so that's what we've done. And we now have a little bit more kind of coming through, like churning through the company as a result. We've built up our portfolio a little bit. And now that we know we can provide value, we have testimonials, we have a portfolio we can send to future clients, we can narrow down and start niching into what we enjoy doing. I love writing sales emails. I don't like managing Facebook ads and tweaking Google, pay-per-click this and that. Like, I don't really like that. So now we can say, oh, we've done sales emails a few times. Here's what our previous customers say, and we'll probably start, niching down on something more like that.
Very interesting. We're talking with Josh Schachnow of Mirkwood Marketing. You can learn about them at mirkwoodmarketing.ca. So let's dive into your website. So I'm looking at it right now. The first thing it says is Mirkwood Marketing, turning readers into customers. So when I am on your site, or I'm on any site, what is kind of when someone first comes to a site, what goal should they be trying to achieve?
Well, the ultimate, it's funny, you should have an ultimate goal, and then your website, you want to adapt to how can we best achieve that goal. So our ultimate goal with the website, or really with anything, obviously, is to get on the phone with a customer, because especially when you're trying to sell them a complete, marketing package, you're not going to sell them over a cold email. You got to.
So your ultimate goal is the phone call?
Yes.
Okay.
The phone call. We find that the best chance at making a sale, which is our ultimate goal, is to make a sale. But in order to do that, we got to get them on the phone. You're not going to make a sale for something simple like tutoring. I can make that sale via text. We make sales even by text. But if you're going to sell a company, a month-long marketing subscription, you got to get them on the phone and tell them, you're confident, you prove to them that you can add value, and they kind of like the relationship.
You think that's what's missing in the kind of world today, where people think that everything can be that automation, and you guys have recognized that not everything can?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things, if you, especially for cheaper, smaller products, ebooks, getting people to subscribe, you can do that from a page or an email if you're writing, if your copy is good, absolutely. But you got to recognize what you're selling, what your product is. People buy into companies that they like to do business with. There's a million, if not more, marketing agencies. The way you're going to make your sales is by proving that you can really add value. Anybody can write on a website, these are our services and this is why we do well, and here's our portfolio. You can Google a million of them. But ultimately, you want to get them on the phone and show it to them, prove it to them as best as you can. So for this business, that's why it's kind of nice to be able that I can kind of compare the two. The tutoring company, a lot of sales, yes, I do make over the phone, but you can also make sometimes we get sales just people clicking on our website and buying. They don't even talk to us beforehand. Whereas for this company, people are going to need to be shown that we can provide them with value. So that's what the website caters to. Our ultimate goal from the website is to say, this is what we do. This is the value we can provide. Take a look at our portfolio. Read these testimonials. Here's our blog with some high quality, at least we think, high quality blog posts that show you we know what we're talking about. Let's get on a call and talk about how we can help you. So a key, and this is actually in one of our blog posts, we have a post on how to kind of turn your website into more of a sales funnel almost. Mm-hmm. A huge mistake that people have these days is their website is, hey, here's about us. Like, me, this is what we do, this is when we were started, blah, blah, blah. You're missing out on an opportunity because people are checking your website. That's a sales. Every page is basically a sales page or a sales funnel. So at the bottom of each page, what do you want them to do? At the bottom of almost every page of ours, we're either going to point you in the direction of a next page you can click to. So for example, at the bottom of our homepage, we say, if you'd like to check out some of our work, here's our portfolio page, because we want to create a sort of funnel. Okay, now we know what you do. Now we can see some actual examples of it. And then we also have our contact information. You should have your contact information at the bottom of almost every page, because if somebody likes what they see, you want to make everything as easy and simple as possible. Oh, I like this website, and I had some email back and forth. What next? Oh, here's their phone number. Here's their email. It's right there. Make everything as obvious and as easy as possible for your audience. So turn your website into more of an experience, not just separate static web pages. Make it well connected. Bring your customers through a path. Okay, they read the homepage. Where do you want them to go next? Does it make sense? Do you want them to read your About Us page? Maybe they don't have to. Maybe you want to bring them right to the portfolio. It really depends on the product or service that you're offering, the type of website you have, but adapt it more. Use it as a sales tool.
Love it. How do you find motivation personally?
That's a great question. How do I find motivation?
So you knew when you weren't motivated to do something and you left that, right? So now that you're doing two other things, how do you know that that's the thing that you want to be in, and you motivate yourself to? Do you have to even motivate yourself, or you just love it so much that it works?
Yeah, I don't really find that I have to do much self-motivating if I put myself in the right situations. So for a great example for me is sports. If you put me on a baseball diamond or a football field, you don't have to tell me a thing. I'm going 150% until the game's over, and if I lose, don't talk to me, because you're not going to hear many pleasantries. And so what I discovered kind of throughout school, and I had some other jobs during the summer and stuff, was that business motivates me. Certain types of tasks and thinking motivate me. And I could tell as soon as I started working with the tutoring company in around November, that this is the type of stuff, being in control, managing, strategizing, trying to automate and scale things like that motivates me.
Yeah.
So I love to get 8 hours of sleep every night, but when I wake up in the morning now, I'm getting on my laptop. I have water, wake up, do my little routine, but I'm fired up, and I'm checking email, I'm checking my to-do list, and I'm just doing it. It's not a question.
Yeah. You're finding things that you love. I love that. What's been tough? We've talked about the journey and it being not as glamorous. What are some of the things that have been tough for you in the first year or so?
Tough is always finding clients, I would say, finding quality clients. With tutoring, we found it came a little easier because, like I said, we just happen to be in a great market. Mm-hmm. And if you have a great product, so in our case, hiring great tutors, then you have the right marketing efforts, and you do some good jobs, you get some good reviews, and it kind of builds and it builds and it builds. With the marketing, it's been a little more difficult to find high quality paying clients. That's been the toughest part in terms of that specific business. So what we're trying to do is this next month specifically is we want to get out there more. I want to start doing more talks. My partner is going to kind of take control of the blog, make sure we're putting out quality content, put together an email list. Really get our names out there, create value. If you're giving good talks, if you're sending out blogs and linking them to people, step one is, provide value for other people without even mentioning a sale or that we can help you. Just provide the value. So that's what we're kind of focusing on in the next month with that regard.
Yep. Keep going.
Well, I was just going to say another tough thing when you're doing these types of things is I don't want to say managing, but handling other people's expectations. So I have a law degree. So the main question I get a lot of the times is, well, why aren't you looking for another job in law, or are you gonna continue in law, et cetera, et cetera, from family, from close friends, from acquaintances, whatever. So that's kind of from a person to person basis how you want to handle that. For me personally, I'm taking this as a break from law. Like I needed time away from it. So I'm giving this stuff a try. If it works, great. In the meantime, I'm having fun. And like my business partner told to me the other day, he said, "This is the most I've ever learned in a summer." So whether this goes to whether this bolsters our bank account or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm still young. I don't have a mortgage to pay. I don't have kids' mouths to feed. And this is going to go great on a resume. And if a few months down the road from now, it doesn't work out, maybe just the tutoring company still churning along, and I decide, you know what, maybe I want to give some corporate law a try because I haven't tried business law yet, truly. Then I will, and that's what I tell people. I'm just honest about it.
I don't think the general public understands entrepreneurship, right? So I'm not surprised at the comments that your friends, family, acquaintances.
I will just say quickly, sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah.
I have a great support system. My family is awesome. My friends are awesome. But you're going to get, comments and questions here and there. It's just kind of the nature of it. And so I just wanted to clarify. I have all the support in the world that I need.
You just saved your friendships.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that they're not supportive, but they don't understand what you're going through, right? So when you say, "Hey, I can't do this right now. I have a deadline that I have to get to," and people are like, "No, come to the bar. Hey, go to the movies with me. Go do this thing," and you're like, "No, I have this business that I have to run." And even if you're doing it 5 to 10 hours a week, maybe that's the day that you have to do it. And what are you willing to give up to have a better life, to continue to have a better life? And I think that's something that's not always talked about and being there. We're talking with Josh Schachnow of Mirkwood Marketing. You can learn about them at mirkwoodmarketing.ca. What's something about you that most people don't know?
Something that most people don't know. I was the shyest person you'd ever meet in high school. Even like up until grade 12, I didn't go to parties. I didn't touch alcohol until university. I was extremely introverted. If I continued down that path, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. I lived a very structured, safe life.
Did something change?
I just kind of matured. It really, in university, I kind of, quote unquote, came out of my shell. And so I would just say, first of all, it's okay to be quiet, especially in today's age where there's social media. Everyone's posting this on Facebook and Reddit and that, and I comment here and there on Reddit. But a quote from Gandhi that I don't even remember how I heard it or when I heard it, but I remember hearing, I was around high school or undergrad, the quote, "Don't speak unless it improves upon the silence." And that it just couldn't be any more true these days. Like there's so much stuff out there and people feel the need they're not, some people aren't even comfortable with silence. Even just the two of you, if you're driving in a car, like, I love to listen. This is, ironically, you're interviewing me right now, so I'm doing the majority of the talking, but most conversations I have with people, I love to ask questions and I love to just listen because A, you're always learning, and B, I just don't like talking that much, which some people find kind of funny or interesting, but I'm perfectly fine to sit for an hour with friends and not say a word.
A lot of sales professionals will tell you that ask a question, sit back, take notes, and that will be a good sales meeting for you because you let the other person talk. And if you're the one who talks more, then that person leaves going, "Why did they talk so much? I thought they wanted to learn about me."
Yeah. So it actually will help you in business.
Yeah.
This is coincidentally, it's completely unrelated to business. I personally, on a personal level, would much rather ask and listen. And thankfully, as you say, that's a great way to go about your business. That's how we do all of our client intake calls. We're asking questions about them. We want to understand their business, understand their needs, hear them out, and then also it gives us a great idea if it's going to be a good fit. That's
Right.
what it comes down to.
I love it. Josh, I appreciate your time. Mirkwoodmarketing.ca. It's MIRK woodmarketing.ca. We'll have that in the show notes and everything. Appreciate your time. Best of luck with Mirkwood and the tutoring business. Thank you for your time today.
Great. I really appreciate you having me on. And if anyone has any questions or whatever, our email's on the website, or we can throw up my personal email with the show notes as well. And
Very cool.
happy to answer any questions.
And when you go to the website, the goal is to make that call. So hopefully you do.
There you go.
Appreciate it, Josh.
Thanks a lot, Zach. Take care.